Did you know that the stereotypical serial killer is a white heterosexual male in his 30s? He is deceptively charming and highly intelligent. He is also usually a valued member of society. So how are we supposed to detect serial killers if they look and act just like everyone else? Serial killers are something that people do not discuss in everyday conversation. I believe that everyone should learn more about them to better be able to protect themselves. For example, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer. Let's take a look at the most famous serial killers in history. John Wayne Gacy. He was born on March 17th of 1942 and was convicted of sodomizing and killing 33 boys in Illinois. He wandered the states in his early years before settling down and marrying a woman in Iowa in 1964. He was first charged with sodomizing 2 boys in 1968 and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. While he was in prison, his wife found his gay porn stash, which led to their divorce. But after getting released from jail, he had no problem remarrying again in 1972, and by then he had already killed 1 person. He did not get caught until 15-year-old Robert Peace went missing on December 11th of 1978. Gacy picked up Peace near a pharmacy, and that was the last time he was ever seen. Peace told his mother he was meeting a man to talk about a summer construction job. Witnesses did not see Gacy, but they did see his vehicle and were able to give police a description, which was enough for a search warrant to search his house. When they searched his house, they found nothing of Robert Peace, but they did find a ring which belonged to another missing teen. That was enough to bring Gacy in, where he confessed in interrogation. At first, he said it was in self-defense and it was only 1 person, but later admitted to killing 30 people. According to an article titled John Wayne Gacy from the Encyclopedia of Capital Punishment in the United States by Lewis J. Palmer, published in 2008, he was abused by an alcoholic father and made fun of for being overweight in his childhood. He was thought to have committed the murders because he was ashamed of being gay, and it was fueled by anger towards his father. He also enjoyed the control over his victims. He lured his victims into handcuffs and then sexually assaulted them. He muffled their screams by shoving socks and underwear into their mouths, and then strangled them to death while raping them. With Gacy's help, police found 29 buried bodies under the crawlspace of his house and 4 more he had thrown in the river. He was executed by lethal injection on May 10th of 1994. Another one of the most famous serial killers of our time is Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was born in 1946 in Vermont and was a lawyer who studied psychology and law. He was thought to have 28 victims, but police are not sure. In an interview, when asked if the victim count was 36, Ted said, "Add 1 more digit. Nobody is sure if that means 37, 136, or 360. He preferred to hunt Caucasians with a thin build wearing slacks and their hair in the middle part. He found pleasure in helping the police assist in investigating his own murders. In 1974, he posed as a police and attempted to assault Carol Durrance. She escaped and went to police but did not have enough evidence to bring him in. It was not until a year later, in August of '75, that Sergeant Bob Hayward searched his car and found pantyhose, a ski mask, crowbar, ice pick, and handcuffs. That was enough to bring him in. He defended himself but lost and was sentenced for up to 15 years in jail. He then escaped in 1977 and fled to Florida by train. He snuck into a sorority house in Florida State University and assaulted 4 women, killing 2 of them. His last murder before being captured was 12-year-old Kimberly Leach, and he was sentenced to death. Ted was raised by nice parents who treated him well. They attended church each week and had no history of alcoholism or drug abuse. He became fascinated with knives at the age of 3, and his problems really began when he found a porn magazine in the dumpster by his house at the age of 13. He was fascinated by violent images and murder. According to the article titled Serial Killers from the World of Criminal Justice by Sherelle Phelps, published in 2002, after his arrest, Bundy said, "I am the most cold-blooded individual you will ever meet. I just like to kill. I wanted to kill." He beat, raped, and tortured his victims. He confessed to killing 28 women right before he was executed on January 24th of 1989. Of all serial killers in recent history, the last one I want to discuss is perhaps the most well-known because of his cannibalism, Jeffrey Dahmer. He was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on May 21st of 1960 and believed to have committed 17 murders total, mostly black individuals. He was arrested for sexual exploitation of 1988 when he paid a young boy to pose nude for pictures. He drugged him and fondled him. He never did jail time but did a work program which allowed him to work during the day and spend nights in jail. Once he was released, he lived with his grandma, but only for a short time before she kicked him out for his drunken behavior and the foul stench coming from her basement. He then moved into an apartment where neighbors also complained about the stench, but Dahmer blamed it on a broken fridge. In early '91, neighbors found a boy wandering the streets dazed and naked near Dahmer's house. This was the boy that happened to be the younger brother of the boy Dahmer had previously been convicted of sexually abusing. Neighbors called police, but when police arrived, Dahmer claimed that the boy was his drunken lover, and police believed him. So they escorted both Dahmer and the young boy back to his apartment where he killed the boy. Finally, in July of 91, the police saw a man running down the street with a handcuff attached to one hand. They thought he was fleeing from the law, so they stopped him, but he told them that some weird dude threatened to cut his heart out with a butcher knife. Police investigated, and when they got to Dahmer's apartment, he invited them in. They found Polaroids of dismembered bodies, a 57-gallon drum full of thick, foul-smelling liquid, and a severed head in the fridge. He pled insanity but lost and was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison, which is 957 years. He was killed in prison by a fellow murderer for his sick sense of humor on November 28 of 1994. He had a drinking problem in high school and was obsessed with dead animals. His parents' bad divorce gave him enough time to commit his early murders. He flunked out of college and was discharged from the army for alcoholism, and he could never keep a job. He enjoyed getting people to agree to consensual sex or pose for nude pictures, and then he drugged and strangled them. He then photographed their bodies in various poses and engaged in sexual acts with the dead bodies and dismembered them. He also admitted to eating the flesh of 2 victims. People like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer are all serial killers that disguise themselves as regular people. Serial killers all have different reasons and motives, but learning more about them will make it easier for us to detect danger. Ted Bundy once said, "We serial killers are your sons. We are your husbands. We are everywhere. And there will be more of your children dead tomorrow." Okay, now go.